Welcome back, everyone, to the T.R.O.N podcast. This is your host, Rashad Woods, with the Randomness of Nothing. Today, I have a very special guest today, actress, talented musician, vocalist, behind the camera, as well as in front of it, Belle Guillory, by way of Austin, Texas, now in California. Thank you.
Oh, thank you for having me, Rashad. So happy to be here with you.
Oh, man, first of all, I got to be honest with you. Your talent speaks for itself. So please, I don't want to overtalk you. Tell us a little bit about your background, please.
Well, you said it. I'm born and raised Austin, Texas, and pretty much I grew up with a big family. I'm the eldest of 8.
Oh, wow.
So the arts was just like in us when we were young. We'd be, I'd make them my choir. I'd make them
Yeah,
my castmates. I'd make them anything my imagination could come up with. And so that's kind
sure.
of where it all started. And then actually a shift day, I was like, you know what? I was always a great student. So I went to college. I got my marketing degree. And
Yeah,
after that, I got a scholarship to go to film school out here in Los Angeles.
unbelievable.
Yeah, so
Unbelievable.
I came out here. That's kind of what made the big shift from Texas to LA. And I've
Mhm.
been out here now for 7 years, crazy to say.
Congratulations. Congratulations to you. Yeah.
And kind of like what you said, acting, writing, worked, oh my goodness, the journey. I've worked at distribution companies. I worked at Warner Brothers on the corporate side. I've
Wow.
been an
Yeah, I saw that.
assistant to Tracy Ellis Ross, the Gyllenhaals. Like, really, when I first came out here, it was like learn, learn, learn as much as you
Yeah,
can.
for sure.
And then finally, and then finally, I was like, you know what? Let's create our own stuff. Let's get into it.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that's when, like, as you saw, like with the acting stuff, I booked a film,
Yeah.
which has, sorry if
I
you
love that
can't cuss on
title.
here.
I love that title. No, it's the name of it's the name of the movie. So it's not like you're referring to somebody, you know what I mean? So
Yeah,
like,
I know. It's always like, sometimes I'm like, BA,
yeah. It's all
and
good.
that's on Paramount Plus, Showtime Plus now, BT Plus, like, and
For
then
sure.
I did plays where I was like singing in because I
Yeah.
am classically trained.
Wow.
Musicals is like my heart. I love musicals, and
Yeah.
then yeah, and then God Be With Us, my heart, my baby. Yeah,
Yeah.
I pretty much poured my money into it. I really wanted to tell a story that related to me and others, so I'm glad to hear that you were able to relate to it. And that was License Off Folk Soul.
Yeah, I thought that was funny because it was like, the parents. Now, my parents weren't pastors. My dad was a deacon at the church, right? So, and my mom was involved. And I went to church Baptist
Tomato,
as a kid.
tomato.
Yeah. Yeah, right. Exactly. Semantics. But like I could relate to like, being the kid from the Catholic school, right, in the controlled environment to going to public school. Even though I lived in the city with the public school. Like so it's funny because even like playing sports, right? Like so when you play in Catholic school, it's clean, right? They're not cussing on the court. They're not cussing at the refs, right? Next thing you know, you go to public school and like, even though I would play like at the park with these kids, being in organized regular basketball in a different environment was like, I'm a fish out of water here when it comes to the language being
Yeah,
used right now. So it's kind of funny, right? You know what I mean? I'll keep it
hundred
PC. I'll keep it
percent.
PG.
No,
So,
100%. I can relate to that. Once I went to like public school, because we moved
right.
to Big Spring, Texas. Shout out to
Mm-hmm.
them. I was hearing kids cussing in the hallways. I was like, oh,
Oh, for sure.
I'm not
Right.
used to this.
And you think it's something wrong with you, right? You think it's something wrong with you. And then fast forward like a year and a half later, 6 months, you're using all the language that's around. You're like, oh, it's cool now. Okay. I'm not going to
That's what
act to
we
be a
doing.
saint. Right, right. You know what I mean? So I thought, it was really funny, poignant, and sweet, right? And I thought that it kind of reminded me, I'm dating myself a little bit, of like the Wood almost, like that era of like
I love that
positivity,
one.
like that's like, hey, there's another side of this genre that's not explored as well. Not everything is a tragedy or a quote unquote hood flick, right? There are normal interactions that take place,
100%.
and I thought that was really poignant. I thought it was sweet, even when you're dancing in your room, right? Stuff like that. I thought that was really fun.
No, that's a great comparison because, like I said, I come
So
from
I
a
was
big
really enjoyable
family.
about that. I'm sorry?
Yes, thank you. I was just saying, I love that you picked up on that because like I said, I come from a big family, so I grew up watching like the '90s shows, the '90s sitcoms. I feel like in
Yeah,
the '90s we had a lot of that feel good black
unquestionable.
stories,
Unquestionably.
like Fresh
Right.
Prince, Family Matters, Sister Sister. Like I loved all of
Absolutely.
those things. And I feel like
Right.
we haven't had that lately. So I wanted to bring that back.
Well, and two, it's because it's digital and it's fragmented now, so like you have to really seek it out to find it, right? So there's not
Yeah.
like it's good and it's bad, right? Because now you can consume it. There's Tubi, there's Amazon, and it's readily available. But it's also not on your regular scheduled programming. Where like on Tuesday night, you knew this was coming on, right? So
Yeah.
it's kind of a mixed bag. But I was really happy to see that. It had me laughing at a few scenes too, right? You know, because it just reminded me of me. You know, it really did. You know what I mean? It was like, yeah, that's that. I could definitely relate to the fish out of water, right?
Yes, I love that. No, yeah, for sure.
So let's talk about how you actually like implement in making filmmaking because you also have your own production company. Let me get yeah, of your entertainment. Excuse me.
Yes,
So can we
Gillory
talk about
Entertainment.
how? Yeah, let's talk about that, please.
Okay, yeah. So pretty much where that started from, like I said, once I shifted, I'm pretty sure you know about like the writer's strike and
Oh my
everything that was
goodness.
going on a
Yeah.
couple of years ago. That just changed the game. I was like, you know what? I have stories to tell. I felt like God was telling me, girl, come on, it's time to get in the game. And so
Yeah.
I created Gillery Entertainment, where pretty much we champion these stories.
Yeah.
I'm more family based, positivity, like you said. Gillory,
Right.
my last name means powerful. So it's
Beautiful.
like the power in storytelling meets the power in you.
Right.
And I want to see more diverse storytelling, like Black people in fantasy.
Right.
I love
Oh
dystopian
my goodness.
movies.
No doubt.
Like
No doubt.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Right.
so God Be With Us is literally just the start of like so much more that I want to do with it. So the process of getting it started pretty much. It starts off with that first project, you need that
Yeah.
legitimacy, which was God Be With Us. So that's why I'm grateful that we were able to, get it licensed and get that
Right.
out there.
I think that the one thing that I've always like when I did this podcast is I find it funny. Like it was not cool to be a geek, but now it's cool to be a geek. Right? Like it kind of flipped on its head, right? So I was like I played basketball, and but like in comics and fantasy was not cool like in the '90s, right? Right. And now the internet exploded. Now they make billions of dollars and they're global, and like now everybody wants in on it. And I'm looking back at it like, man, I was made fun of the same stuff y'all love. Like
I know.
it's kind
Isn't
of
it
funny how
crazy?
it's nuts. It's nuts.
It just flips on top of its head. Yeah, you're right. Cool. I remember at the time, like, when Star Wars and stuff wasn't it, but then I also
Mm-hmm.
remember the shift when it was like super perfect.
For sure. For sure. I just so I really when you started talking that fantasy and all the other stuff, right? I'm like, it resonated very deeply with me because like I always would like to see those things, but you were like in a little exclusive little geek club, right? Right. So it was like,
Yeah.
this wasn't basketball or football, right? But now it's cool. And now I get to kind of take my crown back because I'm like, y'all weren't up on that 20 years ago, but I was.
And I think that's the beauty of like how life works. Because when I was younger, I tried out so many times for cheerleading,
Mm-hmm.
because that's seen as like on the girl side, that's the cool thing to get into. But I
Yeah.
could never make the team. But instead, that
Right.
opened me to debate and like
Right.
storytelling. So it's crazy. Like it'll come back full circle in your
Yeah,
story.
right. So, how did you get your beginning? So, you obviously said you were doing church and choir and things like that. Did you do things in school? Because
Yeah.
you were very expressive in the videos, clips that I saw of you. So, I was like, you're clearly trained.
Yeah, so I first started theater when I was like 13.
Mm-hmm.
And like I briefly mentioned, I did debate like throughout high school and college. So when
Mm-hmm.
people hear debate, they mostly think like debating, but there's
For sure.
actually an artistic side to it where you take poetry, prose, and you bring out these meaningful messages for
Okay.
society and you
Okay.
perform it though. Like you're
Yeah.
like a one person show and you perform it. So I did that as well
Okay.
for a very long time. Yeah, they call it interpretation. If you're
Yeah.
not in the world, you kind of don't know, but you gotta be
No.
in the world.
No.
And
No, I didn't
and
know
then
that.
yeah, and then film school. So I've been in this for a while. So yeah, but theater, I have like I love for acting, like the theatrics, like you said, because I feel like even with comedy,
Mhm.
like back in the day we had like the Jim Carreys, like
Oh,
the
yeah.
Jamie Foxxes. They're very expressive,
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and it's like yeah, just to dabble that back into it is what I was trying to do as well.
Well, the thing is about it too is that people who do comedy don't get nearly the credit they deserve for how hard that actually truly is, right?
Yeah.
You know, And I've listened to, when people talk about be funny and getting punchlines, or you find out people who do stand up, they practice their craft for like a year writing out their jokes. And it's, I remember when I saw Tracy Morgan live once, and like, it's so serious. They're like, no cameras, no cameras. And you're like, what? But it resonates so deeply with them that they don't want their jokes to be spoiled or be stolen, or their artistic merit of what they cultivated, be ruined by a 10-second clip, or just be shared in that way, because they work so hard on that. Being funny is hard.
That's true because comedy is so subjective. That's the funny thing because people, when I was in school and stuff, people were like, "You're so funny, you're so funny." I would never call myself funny because you may think I'm funny, but the person next to you may not.
Yeah,
It really depends on who you're talking to.
for sure.
So that's why I try to find the middle ground of like what can relate to everybody. And
For,
I feel like everyone can relate to being an outcast at some point in life.
well, I think the funny part is that sometimes, and I have no idea if this is you or not, that some people who are have insecurity or shyness actually gravitate towards acting or towards singing, because it's their way to actually get out of that shell of theirs, so to speak. And again, I'm not.
100%.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. In school, like when I was like in junior high, you would not hear me talk. Like I
Mm,
would not talk. I was the shy kid. And that is
really.
true. Like it's a way of acting and singing is a way of expressing yourself and getting your voice heard, really.
Right. 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 And it's not really like, I don't want to say it's not you, but it's like, this is a version of me that
Version
I
of
can
you.
express out. Right. Exactly. Which is very impressive. So you were you won an audience award at the 2022 South by Southwest Film Festival as them in your movie, and also had Tony Todd in it. God bless his soul. What
Yes.
was that experience like?
That movie was so much fun.
Nice.
So, because it's a horror film,
Yeah.
and the crazy thing is, I don't even like horror films like that.
Right.
I grew up with them. My grandmother loved horror films though, so I feel like that was a full circle moment.
Oh wow.
So to be in one and that be like my first like big role, I guess you could say. So pretty much the story follows like four kids breaking into a house, and it's like a slasher film. You already know if you break into someone's house,
Oh, oh
something's
yeah.
about to go down.
Yeah.
And I played cricket, and I wasn't the first to die. At least I wasn't the first. That's all I
Okay.
wanted, Lord. That's all I wanted. I was like the second and third. Like
Okay.
we made it through. We made it through.
Yeah.
But it was a lot of fun because the deaths are based off of like children's games, funny enough.
Oh wow.
So mine was Connect Four, the
Hmm.
game that my character plays. So yeah, so imagine you're playing Connect Four and at the top it's like knives. And then that's how
That's-
she gets like I'm not
oh
gonna
no.
spoil that for you.
Yeah,
But
yeah. I got Paramount Plus, so I'm gonna have to look that up. I think that'll be a
look
nice
it up.
Saturday. Yeah, yeah. So it's cool. That's awesome.
Yeah, but go ahead.
I was gonna say, what are some of the misconceptions about acting on film for somebody who's not an actor, right? Like getting into the industry, auditioning. Like, what are the kind of the? Can you give us like a 20-second outline of people who want to break in and what they need to do?
Yes, if you want to break in, you have to have. I feel like people say this a lot, but you really do have to have a belief in yourself, a persistence.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was out here for maybe like 3 years before I booked that. I may have
Mm-hmm.
booked like a couple of commercials, but sometimes it takes a while. But some people get it quicker than others.
For
You
sure.
know, everyone's journey really is different. So you really just have to have that persistence and
Mm-hmm.
that belief in yourself. That's the big thing because once you have that, doors will just start to open for you.
Yeah,
I
and
really believe
does it
that.
also help to have, obviously, you sing and you're performing and you've had experience, like did it help to have that background, like a specialized kind of skill set that that would be easier to navigate? I don't say
Yeah,
easier, but just be able to apply to roles or say I can do that previously.
yes, I definitely think knowing your strengths can help and letting your team know that. Because the funny thing is, people would always be like, "Oh yeah, you do comedy and stuff," but for a long time, I was only getting auditions for like drama. Don't get me wrong, I could give you a little tearjerker, but my comedy side wasn't being, shown as much as I wanted to. So when like my agent had got me the audition, that was like even her first time seeing me in like a comedy space. It was like,
For sure.
good job. And that was the
Yeah.
first time she actually ever like complimented a self tape of mine. And
Yeah.
then I ended up booking it.
Nice.
Cause whenever you watch BA, whenever you watch it, it does pull from like some 90s stuff that we were talking about. So I kind of definitely incorporated like that 90s humor, like the
For
Chris
sure.
Tuckers and stuff like that that I admire.
Well, one time because I have a martial arts background, right? So I was there was a I live just outside of Detroit. So in Ann Arbor, which is about 35 miles from me, they have like you can do stunt performing, learn how to do stunt performing and things like that. So I was like,
Mm.
what if I wanted to get in like fight choreography? And fight choreography is much different than actual like real hand to hand combat, right? Because the punches are more exaggerated and things like that. So it was like having to kind of retrain your mind on what an audience would want to see versus what you were trained to do. Do you find a difference
Mm.
in that with what do you sing different on film than you would on stage and things like that?
Oh yeah, for sure. There definitely is a big difference.
Okay.
Because when you're on stage, everything is big.
Yeah.
Everything's big.
Right.
Especially if you're filling up like an auditorium or anything like that. And then with
Yeah.
film, I realized since the camera is so here, they're
Oh.
able to catch any little thing, so you don't have to do as much. If
Okay.
that makes
Okay.
sense.
Got it. I understand. So you don't have to be as overtly expressive, right? So
Because a little bit goes such a long, long way
okay.
when it comes to film. Because and so it's like when you're switching back and forth, you have to like keep that in mind.
Yeah. I can only
Because I
imagine.
remember when I was switching back to theater, like, and I was talking, I realized like, oh my gosh, I can barely hear myself.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
because you're in this big space, so it's like you gotta really push.
Got it. Got it. Now, when it comes to your entertainment company, is it just you? Do you have a team with you? Like, what's the size of your team, or is it just you
So
solo?
I have a team. We're a small, mighty team,
Mm,
but we're we're growing.
for sure.
So yeah, so right now it is me, and then it depends on the projects. I'll bring different people on. So I have
Mhm.
different producing partners that I work with. So like with God Be With Us, I have a great producer, Selena. She has her own production company. I'm starting working on an animation short film right
That's
now.
awesome. That's awesome.
So I'm working with another producer, Naomi on the Kune,
Mhm.
Nayek. And so I have people in different areas like that that I bring on.
Yeah.
But with the company itself, we have someone that helps run our social media because that's such a big thing nowadays.
Oh my gosh. Oh my. Yeah. I'm just a small one man podcast, and like I can't tell you how hard it is to actually navigate things you're not good at. Right. Like that's a really hard thing. So like the social media, I was just like, I can't. Right. The hashtags, because it's really actually an art. Right. Like you have
It
to know
is.
clips, you have to know what trends, you have to know the right terminologies, you have to know the right SEOs. And I'm the bum that just says, man, just put it out there and leave me alone. But that's not how that works, right? So to speak.
That
Right.
is me too,
Right.
because I'm in the exact same way. I'm like, just put it out there. I
Yeah.
don't care about all the stuff. Like, if there's an
Nope.
audience that comes, they come. But
Right.
no, it's an art craft
It
to it. And the people that do
absolutely.
well on social media, they know what they're doing.
They do. They do. And you're like, you're like, are you serious? Like, I mean, they call me like literally like we utilize this stuff, but you're only using the surface level, actual level of what it actually is capable of. It's the back end of it is a monster. It really is.
Literally. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's mostly it. It's mostly me too, honestly. Even with the social media stuff, I'm the one having to plan things and all sorts of stuff. Like,
Right.
it's exhausting. It's exhausting being a one person show.
For
Like
sure.
it
Oh my
can
gosh.
be.
Yeah,
But
and you're here and I'm like right here, so I already know
oh
what you have.
no,
Yeah.
no, we here, baby. We here together. We here together.
Yeah. So
Um,
yeah, I appreciate that. I appreciate that. How do you, and I say this very respectfully, as a woman of color, black woman that's in this field of work, how do you navigate that space?
ooh, yes. Again, okay, well, first of all, something just came to my mind. I don't think I'm less than anybody. I don't think
Absolutely.
anybody's better than me.
Absolutely.
And
Absolutely.
I don't think I'm better than anybody else. And so I go into spaces thinking that. The reason I say that is because I have friends that will be like, "Oh, do you think you don't get the job because you're black? Or do you think you don't get this because you're black?" I'm like,
Right.
no, those thoughts do not come in my head.
Right. Right.
I like it is a real thing. Don't get me wrong, because
Of
sometimes you
course.
may be like peep something, but honestly, I think what you believe also exudes out your reality. I'm gonna get the job. I'm gonna get the
Right.
opportunity, and I've
Right.
been blessed enough to have gotten a lot of opportunities. So I'll give it to that mindset. And honestly, the biggest person I gotta thank is Jesus Christ, because
Beautiful, beautiful,
it's God, because He gives me the confidence that I can go in these
beautiful.
spaces and that
Right.
I belong there. Because I think we can all get, what is it called? I've been hearing a lot. What is it called? The imposter syndrome.
Yeah, I just had another person talk about that with me too, right? So I thought that was, I literally just the guest, right, like before you, who was saying the exact same thing. And you have to be in your own space, and you have to be like it's like martial arts. Like I do martial arts. Like you have to be okay with your skill set and where you're at, right? And as
Yeah,
long as because the guy that's winning all the tournaments or the woman that's winning all the tournaments, like sometimes physically you just can't do what they can do. Like you can train,
yeah,
you can be in the gym, you can eat right, and then you're like, I'm just not that. It's just not how
yeah.
I'm built. And I have to be okay with that.
And that's true too. Sometimes you have to have those hard conversations with yourself on
For
where you're
sure.
at. But
For sure.
also, because like you said, being a young black woman, because sometimes I've been blessed enough to be in rooms with people that are way older than me. So
Hmm.
sometimes it seems like they may not take me as seriously because I'm on the
Right.
younger side. But for
Right.
me, that just shows, okay, I just got something to prove. Like
Right.
trust, like I'm gonna work hard and get there. And
Well,
yeah, and show
Well, the
people
only
that.
reason I kind of asked that is because like there's been a large migration of like British black actors out of England because they're like I can't star in Downton Abbey. I just like it's not, and I'm not knocking
Mm,
any programming at all, but they're just like, hey, this it's not available for me. That time period piece doesn't have roles available for somebody who looks like me. So I wasn't sure like if that applied at all to U.S. filmmaking at all. But I'm glad you're doing well.
when when it comes to acting, I would say that's why I started my production company,
Right.
because I was actually talking to a friend about this. There are only so many black roles in general
Right.
and on shows. There really is. And the thing is, we need more Tyler Perry's. We need
Oh, for
more
sure.
Issa Rae's. We need
Right.
more
Ryan
Michaela
Coogler's. Yeah.
Cohen's, Ryan Coogler's, Quinta Brunson's. We do need more, because when I first started acting, there was that sense of, dang, there's only that one black character.
Right.
Why is that? And then they happen to also have to be, they have to play what is it? Two minorities, black and
Yeah.
gay. They usually
Right.
put a vote together and like, there you go. And
Right,
it's like,
right, right. So,
there's a lot of stories to
it
tell.
becomes even more specific, like, when it comes to like, this is a small sample size of people that could actually do this, right? And so,
Exactly.
which is,
So when it comes to that, that's why I also created Gillory Entertainment, to give more opportunities,
wonderful.
because that's the thing. So when it comes to opportunities or being good enough, they're like two different things, because there's just not that many. Even
Right.
Viola Davis, my friend, talked to me about this, because she went to a prestigious acting
Yes.
school.
Yes.
She told me that once she got out, something that they don't teach you is the roles that you're doing in acting school. It's like white pieces, but when you're auditioning, it's typically for like, what's good, like, more like the stereotypical black characters, and they
Right.
don't teach you that. So you got to learn that. So
Right.
it's like, then there's that. There's not enough material for us to learn
For
from. It's like
sure.
a whole bunch of things. We
Right.
just need more.
Yeah, and like I said, that was something that resonated with me. And like I said, your accomplishments speak for themselves. That's not a slight on the industry. That's just the availability of roles that are available in that respective field. So I want to give kudos to you for everything that you've accomplished and done because I think that's amazing.
Thanks. And you too.
Hey, listen, I'm honestly like like it's. I always quote one of my favorite rappers of all time, Cormega. He said, "I'm just trying to be a man in this poison land. Forgive me, Father, they forced my hand." So I always try to say, "Hey,
No facts.
I had to get this out of me to be able to talk to somebody like you because you're busy." You're accomplishing things, and what better medium to do that than to try to put myself out there in some artistic venue? I can't sing, I can't dance, you don't want to see me try to attempt to do either one. So, but I figured this could be my artistic expression.
No, yes. And this is an artistic expression for sure.
I appreciate that. Whatever. Do you have any upcoming projects before? I certainly wouldn't want to leave that question hanging.
Yeah, so there's some things I'm working on, like I said, an animation short
Yeah.
film that I'm working on with
Mm,
a black girl lead,
beautiful.
and then a feature film I'm finishing up writing over a historical black beauty pageant.
Oh wow.
So we got more things. I'm gonna always tell stories. I got a whole pipeline. It's just
Nice.
about, finishing them up, getting them out there, getting them packaged, and getting them going at this point. But yeah.
That's wonderful. And like I said, I know you're busy, so to be able to carve time out on my little podcast, The Randomness of Nothing, it's always about me making connections with people who have inspiring stories to tell. So by way of Texas to California, and I'm
Oh,
sure I'll see your name headlining something very large in the future. So I'm looking forward to seeing.
thank you so much. I appreciate that. Can you
Yeah.
explain to me the randomness of nothing? Like, where'd you
Oh,
get the title from?
okay, so briefly, like honestly, like when I talked about geek, this is like this guy, right? So like I was like, man, like what am I expert at, right? Like because I would have conversations with people and I could literally like I would insert the most random unknown fact of like from something from like 1864 or whatever the case may be. Like I'm the guy who could literally just I used to have an encyclopedia in my bedroom as a kid, but encyclopedia set, and I just knew random
Oh,
facts, right? I did. I just knew it, right? And so fast forward to like
I
you
love
get
that.
older where the internet's kind of democratized that kind of dialogue. I'd watch documentaries and I said, man, I know all this kind of, I think I know all this kind of random stuff. Let me see if I can create a podcast just to talk to interesting people about things that are interesting and see if there's a connection, you know?
Mm,
So,
no, I love that.
so
And
it
there
just,
is.
yeah, that's the beauty of the internet. And so I was like the randomness of nothing. I said, hey, I don't have a specific topic that I talk about, but I do have a lot of interest in various things.
I love that. I do.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for that. I
So
do. The randomness of nothing. This is
yeah,
like a book or like a magical world that you could just dive into. The
yeah,
randomness of nothing.
right. So that's and I just like, hey man, what sticks and what kind of sounds like can roll off the tongue kind of easy. You know what I mean? So
Yes.
we'll see where this
I
takes
love
me.
that.
We'll see where it takes me.
Amen. Me too.
Appreciate it.
I appreciate all the kind words, but even me, I'm like, we gotta race the run still.
Yeah, you know the thing is about it. Just briefly, like just like your audition, you could get the role or not get the role. The podcast could be unsuccessful or successful. I do martial arts. You can get in there, you get your butt kicked, you can get your hand raised. But the most important thing is to get in the ring. That's it. You have to get in the ring, and then you can find out who you really are. It's easy to sit in the sidelines. It's easy to sit in the stands, but you have to be willing to put yourself in the arena, and you do that. And I appreciate you for it.
Amen. Yeah, it's not easy. It's
It's
not,
not.
as you know.
No, no,
It's
no,
not easy.
not at all.
It's not, but
So
it'll be worthwhile.
I know. So it's appreciative of you, and I really appreciate your time.
I appreciate you too. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Belle Guillory. Bye.
Bye.